Again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bongan Changase from Eswatini Investment Promotion, and welcome to today's session, which is being hosted by the Trade Forward Southern Africa. It's a webinar on online digital exporters training and leveraging the digital tools for export. I am an executive manager at IPA, responsible for trade promotion. With me, we have Mr. Robert Moody of TFSA, who will introduce the newly established, newly created digital online TFSA School of Export. And we also have got Tatiana Mata, who is the TFSA country lead for Mozambique, and she's also the founder and managing director of a company called Elim Services. She will do a live demonstration on digital tools for exporters. All exporters and business support managers in Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, and Namibia, as well as South Africa, can access and use. These tools are free of charge, available to all of us. Just some housekeeping announcements. Please note that these sessions are recorded. For Mozambique participants, you can get Portuguese simultaneously. Translation via the menu icon at the bottom of your screen. There is a button that speaks to translation there for anyone who wants to listen to the Portuguese translation. Participants' videos and microphones have been switched off in the platform. If yours is on, please turn it off and the microphone off as well. We will get some time where we can allow questions and answers. But if you have questions and comments along the way, please put your questions on the Q&A zone. You can type your questions there. There will be Q&A sessions at the end of the presentations. And after the webinar, we ask you to kindly complete a short survey as well, just to make sure that we have assisted you, and also to assist us make improvements on our future events. Well, this online digital exporters training session that we have today, it's meant to assist companies that are currently exporting and those that want to export, to focus mainly on digital platforms to say, what can we use, how can we leverage technology, especially with the advent of COVID, where business is no longer done the same ways that we used to do it before COVID. There is a lot of technology that has been introduced and that is available to all of us, and the webinar seeks to provide for that. Well, at this point in time, as we proceed, I would like to hand over to Rob, and also with the rest of the team to proceed with the presentation. Our first presenter is Rob Moody. If I may just give you a brief on Rob. Rob is the lead for access to information and trade promotion. Rob's career spans several decades in export and investment promotion, negotiations of bilateral economic treaties, international development assistance, and SME support. He has worked and done assignments across many geographies, covering treaty negotiations, missions, and practical on the ground. He's worked, his current base in South Africa. He's worked in Canada, Taiwan, Belgium, Netherlands, and the list goes on. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rob Moody, who is going to make a live presentation, a live demo on some of the tools. Rob.
Thanks very much, Bongani. Welcome to everybody this morning. I'm going to do my presentation in two short components. I'll just use a couple of quick slides just to give you an overview of what is available on the Trade and Information Hub, the TFSA Trade and Information Hub. And then I will hand over to my colleague, Tatiana Mata, who is our country lead in Mozambique, and who has actually been trained by the International Trade Center on the use of these incredibly valuable tools that are available that we've collated into the Trade and Information Hub. Just to give you a quick overview, if you go to the TFSA Trade and Information Hub, you see the URL, the website there. the way it has been set up on the home page, it goes through stages that most exporters or would-be exporters will go through, starting from, is my business export ready? Then identifying markets, checking to see whether you're price competitive, where to find buyers, and then particularly we've got tools there for standards and processes that need to be complied with, where you can find customs duties and so on. We're doing something of a different approach today. I will go through to some of the other elements of the Trade and Information Hub, and my colleague Tatiana Marta will go through some of these elements on export readiness and the tools that the ITC makes available that we brought into the hub for identifying markets, checking competitiveness, identifying buyers. And if we do have time, I will quickly show you at the end after that just some of the tools there to identify customs duties and so on. On the Trade and Information Hub, we have just recently loaded a huge amount more quick knowledge guides. These are intended to be handy references that just a one-page, sometimes a two-page document that captures some of the key elements that are very, very valuable for exporters to know, to help guide exporters through the process, from some of the basic stuff of how to register as an exporter in each of the countries. But I'll go into those in a little bit more depth just now. And I will also cover the recently generated TFSA School of Export, because it's become very clear that there's a lot of need, not just for companies and business support organizations and export agencies to be able to help businesses identify what we've used the tools for, identifying markets and knowing what the non-tariff barriers are and even the customs duties and so on, but more the business knowledge and business skills that are required for the business process of exporting. It's more of the business skill side of it rather than the non-tariff barrier side of it. And these, as a barrier to exporting, lack of knowledge or inability to access knowledge cheaply, effectively, and efficiently, it has been seen as a major challenge. So we launched that last year. We pilot tested it, and it's being rolled out to a large group of women in trade at the moment, but is available to all BSOs and all exporters across the region, 24/7, 365 days of the year, on both PC and mobile phones. So you can access it, even if you have 5 minutes spare, you can go back into it and carry on with some of the modules there. Now, at the moment, there are the 7 export foundation modules that are already there that covers understanding the overall global trading environment. It sets the context in which exports happen. There's another module there that goes into more detail about how to determine your company's export readiness and identifying what areas of your company may need strengthening in order to be able to become a successful exporter. There's a lot of groundwork that one needs to do inside one's company to ensure that you can actually make a success of exporting. Then the third module that's already there is an introduction to international marketing, the approaches to international marketing. The fourth module is understanding the export administration process. The fifth one is choosing an appropriate transport service for your export transactions. And then also very, very crucially, selecting suitable delivery terms. That's covering the international commercial terms of trade that are provided by the International Chamber of Commerce and are utilized very, very heavily in international trade. And in actual fact, research has shown that something like 80% of international disputes in international trade relate to incorrect terminology and incorrect setting of terms in your contracts. And this is where the Incoterms are incredibly valuable, because it sets a range of standard terms of trade that you can select according to what your particular conditions are. And the seventh module is then managing the export financial risk. The financial risks in export are a lot more significant than they are in trading in your domestic environment. If somebody in your domestic market defaults, you can reasonably easily go knock on their door and demand payment, or find a lawyer who can pursue that payment for you. You can understand that that gets a lot more complicated when you're dealing in international trade. You can't just go and knock on the buyer's door in some foreign market. And even there, if you eventually have to resort to legal action, or there are issues to take up, it can become a lot more complex in international trade. So that's why that module is there as well. Those are basically setting the foundations. It's the ground knowledge to prepare you for the business processes and understanding the business conditions under which export and international trade operates. And right at the moment, we are working to develop another 2 modules a month. So anybody starting in the School of Export will be able to complete those 7 modules. And as you go forward, there will be another 2 modules a month added throughout the course of this year. And they're grouped in components. So the first one is international marketing, how to locate potential buyers, dealing with international sales negotiations, and then international cargo movement, the movement of your product once you've signed up a contract and you need to get it to your international buyers. It covers preparing international trade documentation, that is the cargo documentation, airway bills, shipping bills of lading, and so forth. And it even goes into multimodal transport. So you sometimes, if you're using train and then air and then vehicle delivery on the other side, depending on what your terms of agreement have been, it covers some of that multimodal transport. And then vitally, of course, the difference in packing and marking of shipments for international transit, because if you're sending product locally to a local distributor in your domestic market, you can palletize it, or you can put it in the back of the delivery truck. As soon as you're going international, you have to secure your product a lot more efficiently and effectively for international transport. And again, then so much these days is dealt with in digital format. So how you pack and mark things is very, very crucial in your international transactions. It's not just for the buyer, but in many cases, when customs inspects things on clearing it into a foreign market, it's vital that the packing and the marking is up to scratch so that the customs officials can easily verify between what is in a container or a shipment with what is on the documentation. And of course, as soon as you start going international with sales, you start to have to consider insurance of your product, particularly marine insurance. And there's a very, very long history of legal requirements in international insurance for movement of cargo. So that's vital as well. The next segment component of modules covers the customs affairs. Crucially, any exporter dealing in international trade has to know the harmonized system of customs nomenclature, which is controlled by the World Customs Organization. And just recently, we shared an invitation to a link on a webinar going into the changes that have occurred, because they usually get updated round about every 10 years. The harmonized system of nomenclature has just recently been updated. So that's a vital element. And you need to be able to classify your product correctly and use that correct classification on all of your documentation, and very, very particularly in customs documentation, because that is the code that customs authorities around the world use to identify what a product is, and therefore what the customs duties and other factors that apply to a shipment entail whether that is your health certificates, whatever other certificates are in place. It will determine whether there's a VAT payable. It will determine whether there is a customs, an excise duty payable on top of customs duties as well. Then there's an element on how customs valuation occurs. It might seem very straightforward. Well, you've got on your invoice X amount that you're billing to your buyer, but there are there's a lot of detail that goes into how customs actually values a shipment for application of customs duties. It's not just the product, it can cover packaging and so on, and sometimes it includes cost of transport, sometimes it doesn't include cost of transport. So that customs valuation is extremely vital information and business knowledge for any exporter or would-be exporter to have. Because TFSA is funded by the government of the United Kingdom, there's an element there on the UK Southern African Customs Use and Mozambique Economic Partnership Agreement and the rules that apply on customs valuation in the UK as well. And then there's another module on the role of the international logistics agent. And in almost all international transactions, export transactions, it does become a vital role that the international logistics agent can play, and how you work with those logistics agents. Sometimes, or the WTO did a survey some time ago, and it highlighted that in most export transactions, there are at least 12 different people involved in various elements of the transaction, be that the financial side, the logistics side, clearing, preparing documentation, getting right certificates and things like that, your certificate of origin, proving it was originated from your country. And the logistics agents, freight forwarders, customs brokers, and so on, often play a vital role. But it's important for any exporter to be aware that you also can't just leave it to the agent. You have to cover a certain amount of responsibility yourself. Now, on the export administration, that tends to be your internal preparation, producing well-constructed quotations and pro forma invoices so that you make sure that you are quoting correctly. And this is where it all links together with the Incoterms as well, because your Incoterms determine how you prepare your quotation and where risk and ownership and costs transfer between the seller and the buyer. And then how to process the buyer's order, some of the basic business processes necessary to ensure that you process a buyer's order correctly so that you can get properly paid on it. Vitally, of course, is export financial matters. That's Series 5 in the modules in the School of Export. Module 13 is resolving potential cash flow problems. This is absolutely a crucially important element for any exporter, because your cash flow projections will change dramatically between your domestic market as soon as you move to an international market. You have to prepare for longer terms of trade, potentially challenges to recoup monies, and your cash flow is very important because you have a lot of work to produce your product, and you might even have to change product, adapt product. You have to be able to finance that. And then, of course, you will take some time to recoup that when you get paid by your buyer overseas, which usually has a longer time frame than your payments in your domestic market. There's a module on export credit insurance so that you can insure yourself against various risks of failure. And usually these cover two areas. There's political risk. Maybe a country you're exporting to is going to default. Very, very pertinent at the moment with a lot of sanctions that are in place and embargoes on trade with Russia. If you had a shipment that was going to Russia, or if you had a shipment that was going to Ukraine, the situation there could mean that there's a political risk that you cannot receive payment, they cannot pay, and you can get export credit insurance there. And there's also an element of credit, it covers export credit insurance for default by your buyer on the other side. Again, vitally and good information. Currency exchange issues, particularly with cash flow. Exchange rates can change dramatically over a period of months. And as soon as you get to exporting, if you're looking at even a 6-month terms of trade, the exchange rate can change dramatically over that period. So there's a module on managing through currency exchange issues. Costing for export, again, vitally important, because costing for export is going to have a multiple range of additional costs beyond what you would incur in your local market. And then a lot of the export legal considerations, understanding the international legal environment, hugely different from your domestic environment, international contracts. And I'm sorry, the last ones are cutting off at the bottom of my screen because of the screen sharing. But these modules are being developed on a monthly basis through to the end of this year. They've been piloted and tested, and the feedback so far is that they're extremely good. It's not an academic training. This is business training. It's done in conjunction with the International Trade Institute of Southern Africa, the foremost export training organization in our region. And they've actually been a member of the International Trade Training Organization globally for many years. And their CEO actually chaired that organization. And Idrissa still sits on the accreditation committee for the International Trade Training Organization. So anybody doing this, and I emphasize this to the BSOs in the meeting, as well as to companies, you are getting top-level training through the School of Export, and it is free of charge. It's free to access and free to use. Now, I posted a flyer in the chat bar already, just giving you a bit more information so that you have a record of those modules and links to all of it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and sorry, that presentation, and I will share my screen quickly just to show you where this all resides on the Trade and Information Hub. And I will show you that this is not just stuff that's in a PowerPoint presentation. Exactly what I showed you there. If you go to the Trade and Information Hub, you can find the links there to all the stuff. And Tatiana Mata will shortly go through some of the elements of the tools that are embedded into the Trade and Information Hub. Now, just on our export guides, if you go to the resources page currently on that Trade and Information Hub, we've just uploaded a huge number of really valuable guides. Some of them are videos. The first one here covers how you need to prepare your company internally. It's the internal analysis. Once you've done that, the second video gives you some information about how you now go about the external, analyzing the external environment in which you operate in international trade, particularly around market research. There's a link there to a series of video guides from the International Trade Center. These are extremely good to help you work through some of the processes that Tatiana will demonstrate to you now from the International Trade Center. There's also a company profile and pitch. It's a very short one-pager so that you can capture the nitty-gritty of what your product and your company is about and start to plan your export process. There are PDF video guides here. There's the first one there in Portuguese on how to register as an exporter in Mozambique. There's a brand new one that we've just completed on using barcodes. This has come up as a serious issue for companies across the region, because in international trade, you almost cannot get away without having barcodes on your product, both on individual stock keeping units as well as on bulk packaging. and that relates to, again, your packaging and marking for international trade. Their guides on registering as exporters in each of the other countries, Eswatini, Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia, and South Africa. And there are also guides there going into more detail. So there's training in the School of Export on Incoterms as well. And there are guides here on the Incoterms in general. Yes, we're running time-wise.
Yeah, rounding up now.
I'll round out very quickly now. So there's a guide on the introducing the Incoterms in general, and we've also given specific guides on some of the particular Incoterms that are most commonly in use: cost, insurance, and freight, delivered, duty paid, cost and freight, free on board, and there's also a guide on preferential trade and proof of origin. Now, to go to the School of Export, it's linked at the top of the Trade and Information Hub. You go through, you can click to register. You can register very, very easily. It's a simple registration process. It just asks for your name. You set up a username, your name, an email address, and you set up a password. That will then give you access to the School of Export, and you can go into that. There's a course library. You can pick your courses. If you click on any of them, that will open up for you. There's a series of files there with a guide to how to use the School of Export. There's also there are links through to all the material that has been used to prepare this. The text is there for you. You can download that as well. And if you click on any of the modules, I've already done these modules, and you just click on the module, it will start up, and you can, it's a mix of videos and interactive questions just to reinforce your knowledge all the way. It's very easy to navigate. You can go forward to the next part of it, and you can go backwards. You can go back and redo the guides. It actually will test your level of understanding before you start, and very interactively just see how much your knowledge has improved afterwards. As I say, there are 7 modules there at the moment, and there will be another 21 modules being generated through the course of this year. As I say, these modules have very user-friendly interactions, and it's a mix of confirmation of information and videos that you can play. It's free to access. The business support organizations are strongly encouraged to use these for their own staff, as well as to actively promote your exporters to use them. Encourage them. If you want to bring together a group of 5 or 10 or 20 exporters and chase them through that together, this is available to you free of charge, so you do not have to go out to find external resources or incur the cost of generating this information for yourself. I'm sorry this has taken me a little bit longer than I wanted to. I'll hand it back to Bongani, and Tatiana Mata will then go through some of the tools on the Trade and Information Hub, and depending on time afterwards, if there is a little bit of time besides question and answer, I'll also show you some of the other tools that are embedded in the Trade and Information Hub. These videos, these webinars that we've been doing are all recorded. So if I don't get to that, please go onto the Trade and Information Hub. There are videos there in our events page, and you will see all the mechanisms of how you use these tools as well. Bongani, thank you very much. Sorry for going a bit over time there.
No problem, Rob. Thank you very much for the detailed presentation on navigating the Hub School of Export and Knowledge Guides. You really gave us a detailed presentation on where to find the different links. Well, we have some questions. We'll have a section on question and answers later on, where we'll engage and respond to some of the questions that we have posted. Again, it's just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please feel free to post these questions on our questions section. We will pick them up later on and respond to your queries. Up next is Ms. Tatiana Mata. She'll be presenting to us on, she'll be navigating the digital tools for exports that are available on the TFSA Hub's website. Ms. Tatiana Mata is an agriculture economist and founder of Elim Group of companies in Mozambique. She is a market systems development expert with 19 years experience in agribusiness, rural development finance, business development services in Southern Africa. Ms. Mata is also an active contributor to the public-private sector dialogue, having been the first woman to be elected to be the presidency of the Mozambican Fruit Growers Association, the Agribusiness Chamber within the National Confederation of Technical Associations. She was also nominated as the vice presidency of the National Federation of Agricultural Associations. Please welcome Ms. Tatiana Mata. Over to you, Tatiana.
Hello, hello everyone. Thank you, Bongani, for the opportunity to present. Thank you, TFSA. It's definitely exciting to be here with you today and to share these wonderful tools that we have within TFSA. Elim represents TFSA in Mozambique, so we are definitely excited to be here, and bem-vindo a todos, bem-vindo a todas. So some Portuguese in there, like this, it was earlier informed, there was Portuguese translation. So please, tradução aí disponível, sinta-se à vontade para usar. So like Rob said during the presentation, I'm here on the TFSA's website, and you can easily navigate through it. And there is, for the Portuguese speaking, Portuguese speakers in this case, there is also an opportunity to have all this content of the website in Portuguese. So please feel free to go into it and share. So Robert already shared this, where you can do an export readiness. And export readiness is important because you want to ensure that you're actually able not to export. And sometimes we think, oh, no, let me go out, this internal market, it's saturated, so let me try new markets. That's great, but you need to be ready for it. So we do have in the website a tool that enables you to do a diagnosis of your business, so you'll be able to look at, the management readiness of the business for export, market intelligence, look at the production aspects of your business towards exports. So the questions are very, very good. They are very good because it actually challenges you and you try to understand, am I really ready for this? Am I ready? Am I almost ready for it? So take the opportunity to do this exercise if you're thinking of using export as your growth strategy. It's definitely important because these tools will help you to be prepared, to face the global markets, out there, so that you can compete competitively, and once you have gone through that, once you have said, great, we are ready for the export market. So where are the markets, right? So in here, the first one is identifying the markets, and here we have, if you can choose, you can say, okay, fine, I want to go globally. I want to find the opportunity I want the opportunity to identify markets all over the world. And we're going to use the International Trade Center tools to show you how to do that. But you can also go and say, okay, I want to focus on in Europe. I want to go and focus, outside of Europe. And for instance, in this case, we have Canada and US to go. If you consider the different country agreements, bilateral agreements that exist, you can also go there. But let's look globally. You can here come and just clicking on that. icon, can I say, put it that way, or link, you can decide which country am I in, which product should I look into, where should I look for potential markets. So let's say that, no, in this case, I say I'm in Mozambique. So I want to say, okay, what are the potential, what is the potential for Mozambique, So that's what I want to do. I want to say, find, okay, countries, that's the Mozambique. I want to see which country, which products are they that I could explore, or find potential for Mozambique, and this gives you a really good overview of what's out there, okay? Because you can see the different products that Mozambique can actually export. We can talk about electricity, for instance. We do export electricity to some our neighboring countries, but then we can talk about cashew nuts, that we are famous for our cashew nuts, bananas and shrimps and all that, So that is an opportunity where we say, we can, let me just quickly minimize this a little bit. Yes, thank you. So where we can actually see, these are the different products, the range of products that the country can export. And let's look at it. You say sesame here, 47%. What is it saying? It's saying that, there is an export potential for Mozambique of 180,000 million. So sorry, 180 million dollars of export potential. But currently we are only, exporting about 99 million dollars of sesame. So there's a gap. There's an untapped potential of about $95 million dollars. So this is definitely good information if you are in the sesame subsector. If you think, look, I want to find additional or alternative markets, because right now Mozambique exports sesame to China, Japan, and India. Those are the main buyers, sometimes to other countries. But let's quickly have a look at it and say, okay, where else can we go, to export? Sorry, this thing is jumping around. Oh, sorry. My network is a bit, yeah. Sorry, I don't even know what's going on now. But the idea here is that you would then, okay, there we go. Double click. And the idea is that you then go and say, okay, fine, where are these markets? The markets for the sesame that we have identified here. Open the markets, please. So where this markets, for some reason, it's not working, and I don't know why. And I had opened it before. So my internet actually, my electricity actually went down again. So I'm using my phone thinking. So it's a bit slower, but here we go. So you can, like I said, we are exporting sesame to China. And if you look at it, China is, the largest market for us at the moment, with a potential of 105 million, and we are exporting 69, million dollars to China. And so there's still a 36% untapped. But there are other countries, that we do have, like India, here, Germany, Greece, Turkey, the list goes on. This is interesting because what's important here for you to understand when you read this is that this little ball here, this empty one, white, it tells you, really where you are, and all this bar tells you, this is your full potential. So in here, like your full potential. And this difference here is your untapped. So this is where you are, this is where you could be, and this is your untapped, the gap, right? And if you look at Japan, for instance, Japan is one that also has, extremely good good potential. But what happens is that, the export is about 3.8, and the actual exports, are 18 million, So 3.8 is export potential. but the actual exports are 18 million. And how is that possible? It's because most of our product actually goes through China into Japan. So that really says that we are using above the potential, but if we can still sell, it's all good to us, you know. But this gives you a really, really good opportunity. And let's look at the United Kingdom. You know, we said that TFSA, you know, is financed by the United Kingdom, the government of the United Kingdom. We want to promote, you know, trade to the United Kingdom, and also we want to promote trade among the countries, you know, the second countries that are part of the program. But if you look at the United Kingdom, you know, for sesame, Mozambique had a 3.6 million potential, export potential, yet it's not realizing any of that, you know. So this definitely makes you wonder, like, what's going on? Let's try and figure out how, you know, we could actually go into this country and see what else can we explore. And we have seen here, we can see, you know, a long list of products that we can still explore. And when I'm talking about Mozambique, I'm talking about any other country. You can look at Malawi, you can look at Eswatini, whichever. You know, the idea here is just to showcase, you know, for instance, one product that we may be exporting to a specific market, which may be of high competition or high demand there, when there are other places that you could actually go, but because you do not know, the whole point is to give you information, to give you the tools to actually realize, you know, that product and export potential, you know, in other places where you can actually make more money, be more competitive, where you can, as a BSO, you can actually showcase to your members that you could make money somewhere else. For instance, if the current market has a quota, you know, and can only receive a specific volume of product, you could find by using these tools, you could find potential markets, alternative markets for your members somewhere else. Okay, so this is an opportunity for you to do that. Okay, so by clicking on exporters, we can quickly see who are the competitors of Mozambique in the UK, for sesame in the UK market. You know, we can quickly say, okay, for Mozambique, it really has an untapped market, you know, untapped potential. We have not explored it at all, but we can see countries like Sudan that have identified UK as a good market. You know, you can see Nigeria, also a very strong producer of sesame in the world. You know, Ethiopia, yes, one of the largest, top, you know, producers in the world. But curiously, you know, really curiously, it's that Tanzania, it's one of the largest producers also of sesame, has also not identified UK as a potential. It's not selling to the UK. You know, information is power. Is power. You know, you're saying top 10 countries that are exporting to just 2 or 3 markets, you know, yet they're leaving behind other markets that could be even more lucrative because they do not know, you know. So this is definitely important for us to have a look at it. And you can have a look at it in different ways. You know, we have, you know, the platform has different ways of showcasing the results, which are really nice for graphics and things like that. You know, that if you want to put in reports, it's really good. I personally use it a lot for my consultancy business as well, you know, to showcase where we are and what could be done additionally. Okay, so then that was really on trying to say, let's find markets, you know, for us. We could then go and say, let's find prices, and you can click on that link on finding prices, and you can easily go in and say, okay, who are the different buyers, for instance, for oil seeds, and I had clicked that before, so I have opened just to avoid the internet delay. So you, for instance, for the oil seeds, in this case, with the sesame and all this, you find that, here you say it's oil seed, that's what I had put before, looking at sesame as well, and all countries. Okay, the imports, and you find that China is the largest. We had seen also in the case of Mozambique, Germany, Netherlands, Japan, Mexico, and so forth. And we once again can go in and say, fine, who are the bigger or the largest suppliers of China in this specific case? We're seeing a list of supplying markets for the products imported by China, And there we go. Brazil is also the top. They produce a lot of soy. United States of America. Argentina and all that. And there goes Mozambique. Mozambique is definitely there as well. As one of the countries. And when we're talking about price, because we're talking about price, then we can look. We can look at the values. Here it is value imported in 2020. You can see how much these countries are importing, and then we could actually look also at that on the compare it with the volumes, and then you can quickly also pick up how much is being paid per ton and things like that for the countries. And an interesting thing as well that one can study is in terms of the balance or the trade balance, because you can see, over time, if the specific country is increasing its exports to a specific to the importing country or not. So you can study that, and you can start to understand why is that, and does that mean that there's a potential for me to come in and also start supplying? So you could have a look at that as well. And here on our page, you can continue to look at, for instance, another thing that's important is the buyers. I'm trying to just, for the sake of time, because you can also look at, say, fine, who will buy? I've already established, for instance, that these are the different suppliers. Especially if, let's say, if we even look at China, we said, fine, it's in China, or who are the buyers? Okay, because since these are the countries that are supplying to in China, so who are the buyers? So we can click here, and we can, sorry, oh my God, when my internet went down, my login went out. I don't want to go into that, otherwise I'll have to do it it will take time. So what we could do, yeah, my login went out with my thing, but just give me 1 second, maybe I'll quickly. That's another thing that is important. I need to tell you that you need to register. This content is free, can be free. The content can be free, but at the same time, it's important that there are specific areas that will be restricted. Okay, there we go. I'm in again. Just had to refresh. Okay, there are specific areas that will be restricted. So if you are a subscriber, a paying subscriber, then you have access to also to some data as well. So like we're saying, these are, for instance, list of importing markets for specific products. In that case, this will be, sorry, this will be the oil seeds. You just have to type in there. Sorry, I think my internet definitely went out. Oh my God, I'm sorry, my internet went out because I'm using my phone as my data right now because the connectivity went down. But in here, let me just tell you that in here, you just click in there. If you are in a good stable connectivity, you just click in there, and you'll be able to access you'll be able to access the list of countries, of companies that are actually buying the products that you are seeking to sell. Okay, so that definitely allows you to be able to do that. And then I think, let me see, the last thing that we need to do here is you need to understand, what are the standards and the processes for you to sell? Because if you're going to sell to a country, you need to understand, what are the requirements, there we go. Here, the customs, the duties, the taxes, rules, regulations, are you going to sell in a small packages when they only accept a big package? Are you going to sell, so you need to be able to understand. And here we give you, it gives you the information on how to go about it, depending on where you go, which place you want to sell to. There is enough information with videos on how to go about that. So you can understand the trade regulations, the rules, and all that. And some of these things will also be covered in those modules that Rob did mention earlier. So you'll be able to understand in detail, someone explaining to you how to go about exporting to the UK or the EU market, or to the US market, so that you can understand, and also prepare your packaging, prepare all the documents, phytosanitary, meet all phytosanitary requirements, and all that. So that's really what I wanted to share with you, in terms of opportunities for you to find markets, specific markets for that. So you go in there, you identify for your country. We can maybe do it for Malawi. Let's do it one for Malawi as well. Malawi, I think would be great to see which products are available for Malawi. So this says there is a $300 million untapped potential for export from Malawi. So, okay, there we go. Raw cane sugar, it's 39%. So that's interesting. Black tea, yes, I know black tea for sure. Nuts, interesting. There we go. So let's try the raw cane sugar. It says that there is an untapped 69%. I'm just quickly want to give you the opportunity for you to be able to do this. Okay, for another country. And there we go. You see Kenya. Kenya looks like Kenya is one of the biggest importers, and there's still a potential, and you can go through the list. Okay, you can go through the list. This is definitely interesting. One thing that I also like to do here when I do this is to click here on the exporters list. Yes, there we go. Good Lord. Sometimes the Mac doesn't help. Good Lord, for some reason my Mac today, when I worked this morning, it was looking fine. Now it's just not working nicely.
Try it on the Gantt chart. I find the Gantt chart often works better, Tatiana.
Yeah, works better, right? Yeah, because for some reason it just doesn't. Okay, there we go. Let's see. I wanted to show the. No, actually, I wanted to show the exporters. Yeah, but here we go. It's fine as well. For some reason, it's technology when it most needed. So there we go. So you can actually find here. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it was here. You can also quickly see, who are the different exporters, the export potential in terms of the countries you can send to. We attend here, we've got Brazil. It's one of the largest raw cane exporters. We all know that, There we go, other countries. So this all tells you that, it's also, these are competing countries as well, and that's in this specific case, Malawi has to play against. But this is good to know, because then you have to find what your competitive advantage is, to a specific market. You already know that these are your competitors in the market. So find your competitive advantage. Look for time for season of delivery. Look for all the types of agreements that you can have, or a country can have with yours as well. Trading partner can have with yours. Something that I really like, and I'm going to quickly show you here. When you come here to the first one, identifying markets, I should take you to the page of I didn't take it there. Here you go. Intrasend.org. Keep this page in your mind, intrasend.org, because when you start here, it gives you all the different pages. Okay, all the different pages of Intrasend of the ITC. So you can actually look the trade map, market access, investment map, which it's really good. I'm just for the sake of time. I think Bongani only has 30 minutes, right? So my time, how long do I have? So I to know if I can go in, So because you could also.
You have about 5 more minutes, Tatiana.
5 minutes, thank you. So because you can also look into, for instance, your trade competitiveness as a country and simply say, okay, how competitive am I, against, I don't know, for this specific product, for the cane sugar, for instance, sugar cane, Malawi. There we go. Okay, let's just say Malawi. Okay, there we go. It's already showing us number of exporting countries will stand. So it gives this here in the trade competitiveness section. I don't know if you guys can see it here. It gives you a good understanding of how the country is positioned. Okay. In terms of number of exporting countries, value of exports, sharing national exports, all these different things. And that is what? That is for fresh food. But then you could go for the different type of products that we're talking about here, or that you are interested in, So you can actually start verifying your trade competitiveness based on this information. Okay, so this is something that one should spend time in, just to try and understand, what are the competitiveness ranges of a specific product and so forth. So definitely consider that. Okay, so in that page that I showed you, it also, it also gives you an investment map, so this investment map also gives you the opportunity to see where are the different opportunities in investing in a specific country. If you are, for instance, a foreign investor, you think to yourself, I want to invest somewhere else. So this gives you a good opportunity to understand how Malawi is ranked, where are the opportunities of investing in Malawi, what's the range of foreign direct investment in that country, so forth. It gives you a good understanding, because sometimes our members want to expand, they want to grow, they want to internationalize. So they need this type of information. You as a BSO should be ready, to be the one-stop desk of your company, your members that want to trade internationally, just outside the borders. If they want to come to Mozambique, if you're in Malawi, they want to come to Mozambique, or whatever country in the region, or if they want to go, outside the country, you should be ready, to be that one-stop desk, because most of the BSOs are chambers of commerces and industry organizations. So it's definitely important that you can provide this kind of information to your members. Okay, So do feel free. You know, there are lots of, like Rob said at the beginning, you know, the website has the Southern African Trade Hub website has compiled information from the different websites, you know, WTO, YTC, all those things. Everything is there to give you the tools in one place so that you can learn and then also teach others. All free of charge, mahala, gratis, you know. So take the opportunity to learn, and dedicate time to this, to these tools. You can do it at your own time. You can later on even get small, you know, like recognitions or certificates as a result of that. You even here on this website, you can also do that, you know, because you have learned. It's a tool that you can use in other places. For instance, I started using when I was at varsity doing my research, you know, then, you know, started using in early days of consulting, then had the opportunity to also do the training with the ITC, you know, and have the certificate as a user and trainer, you know. So this definitely, it's worth it, because today part of my business is also comes out of this, you know, where I'm able to give the latest statistics based on the information that I have, and because I can use the tools as well.
All right, thank you very much, Tatiana, for the wonderful presentation. You're quite detailed, we've learned a lot. At this point in time, we'll jump onto the Q&A session in the minutes that we have. I see on our Q&A section, we've got a couple of questions. One of them being, someone is asking, are there any documents or link you have on how one determines pricing, especially FOB pricing? I don't know, Rob, would you want to comment on that? And also a link to register or create an account on the TFSA School of Export.
Sure, thanks very much, Bongani. Yeah, if anybody goes to the TFSA Trade and Information Hub, I've posted a couple of links, a link to it there, and also a quick document that gives you the link. If you go onto the TFSA Trade and Information Hub, you don't need to register on the TFSA Trade and Information Hub itself. There are two areas where you would need to register. One for the tools that Tatiana was demonstrating from the International Trade Center. You'll see that she was only able to get some information, and then she had to log in for the deeper information. So I strongly encourage people to go to the Trade and Information Hub, go through to the tools, set up a registration in the International Trade Center and use those tools. And then also on the Trade and Information Hub, you'll see right at the top, there's a little banner, a link through to the TFSA School of Export. And if you click on that link, it'll take you through to the School of Export, where you again would need to register and just set up your profile in the School of Export. Now, on the question of, you know, preparing prices and so on, there is an element of, there's a module that is going up on the School of Export, on export pricing, on generating your export pricing, because it is a similar process essentially to X Warehouse. The two little videos that are there talk about that, our own videos on our resources page. So your costing for export is very similar to your X factory, X warehouse point. But as soon as you start to export that product, depending on how you've set up your terms of trade, if you are selling more than just X warehouse, if you are selling FOB, that means you need to calculate your export packaging, bulking, palleting, containerizing, and stuff like that, to the point where it crosses your ship's rail, for example, for free on board. And of course, if you are using cost insurance and freight as an Incoterm, your terms of trade, then you have to add on the insurance costs and the freight costs to deliver to your client. And according to the other Incoterms, deliveries, delivery duty paid, and so on. So there's a module in the School of Export that covers both the Incoterms as well as costing and pricing for export. So I hope that answers that question. I see there are a couple of others there that was on the pricing. Yeah, that's covered. So in your document link, there is a link that we've got a guide on the resources page there that goes into more detail specifically on those two terms, because FOB and CIF are very common terms of trade in exporting, and you will find two guides there on FOB and CIF, as well as a couple of the other more common ones. As I say, the registering and creating an account for the School of Export, go onto the home page of the TFSA Trade and Information Hub. The link has been posted a number of times, and it's also in the document that we've posted in the chat bar. There was a comment, sorry, Bongani, I'm just reading through the Q&A there myself.
No problem, go ahead, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, thank you. I see a comment from Polokang. So the majority of external markets are looking for raw materials rather than processed goods, looking at Tatiana's presentation. This is the absolute fabulous value that you get out of these tools that are embedded in the hub, particularly those ITC tools. Those tools take the global trade data from some 200 countries around the world, and they're usually updated depending on which country provides information more efficiently, but they usually get updated every 3, 6, or 12 months. And that takes all the existing exports from a country and where they're going to. So if you're exporting product A from Eswatini and it's going to the United Kingdom, for example, you can see, okay, there are other exporters around the world who are also supplying to that market, and it shows you how much additional value you can get out. Now, because a lot of the countries in our region, Tatiana was showing Mozambique, it works on what is the big export from Mozambique, and it often is raw materials from our region. But the joy of these tools is, if I'm not an exporter of aluminium or I'm not an exporter of electricity, you put in your product and you can see what the markets are for your specific product, as opposed to the general of what are the commodities being exported, because you're only, if you're an exporter of cashew nuts in Mozambique, for example, or an exporter of ladies' blouses from Botswana, or you're an exporter of oysters from Namibia, you're not interested in what the markets are for aluminium. So you can look at the markets for your very specific product, ignoring the raw material stuff. If you are, a manufacturer of a product, you're not really worried about the raw materials. You're only interested in what is the market for your own product. That is really the excellent value that you get in the tools. And what Tatiana was saying is, when we talk about the value of these tools, I'm not just talking about, or we don't just talk about the sort of value to you, saving you time or anything like that, but it is a real dollar value. You don't have to now spend a huge amount of money paying consultants like Tatiana or others of our colleagues to do this research for you. They would very often use these tools. You can do that research yourself and literally save yourself $10,000 or $20,000 that a consultant might charge you to do the research, and they would probably be using the same tools that you could be using free of charge yourself. There was a question from Karuna Reddy. Not sure if I have the correct HS code for gluten-free. It depends very much on your product, obviously, and it depends very much on the market that you're exporting to. Some countries will have a product, whether it's gluten-free or not, and it's all bundled together as one HS code. So you do need to be careful identifying the code for the country that you are exporting to. There are video links on our Trade and Information Hub. And of course, the School of Export will have a module on correctly identifying HS codes. It can be a very, very complex process. One of the other team members in our group has actually done a lot of consulting, because it can become a very, very strict legal interpretation. But there are links to the World Customs Organization, there's training there, and there are videos there on how you go about that. If you come unstuck, then I would suggest contact your local business support organization, export agency, or chamber of commerce. They should be able to help you. And if they are unable to help you, they can come through to us, and we can certainly try to provide some assistance to correctly identify the HS code for a product. We don't generally deal directly with companies, because it would be impossible for us to work company to company across the whole region that we operate in. So the first port of call would be your local export agency and or chamber of commerce. And if they're unable to help using the tools and so on, they can always come through to us for some assistance. In particularly difficult cases, then you need to have a real specialist in a particular product and a particular market to help you. But for most cases, it's not the case. I see that was from another question from Karuna. It's already much the same thing. Karuna, contact your local chamber of commerce, export agency. I don't know what country you're in. If they're unable to assist you, then ask them to make contact with us, please, and we'll certainly try to help you. And I see there's from Barati Katlolo. I'm already enrolled into the first cohort for the TFSA in Botswana. Fabulous. Only 7 modules, correct. Barati, there's 7 modules in the learning management system at the moment. And we contracted with ITRISA, that is the International Trade Institute of Southern Africa. As I say, they are the foremost exporter training organization in the region. Anybody wanting to go and do more formal academic training, you can get university level certificate and diploma qualifications from them. And indeed, some of the universities in the region, their export training in their business schools is actually very often generated by ITRISA. Now, we've contracted with them for another 21 modules on top of the 7 foundation modules there. And those are, you'll see in the document that I posted in the chat bar, you'll see the other modules that we are developing with them. And the first 2 should be going up shortly within the next week to 10 days. That would be modules 8 and 9, followed by 10 and 11, 12, 13, and so on throughout the course of this year. So I strongly encourage anybody to go onto the School of Export. And just for everybody's interest, Barati says that she's in this first cohort of TFSA in Botswana. Our Women in Trade initiative is using these modules to do combined training through BSOs. And this is being done with cohorts across the whole region. So in each country, there's a cohort, I think, of about 15 to 20 women who are being put through this training in conjunction also with our partner organization for that, Future Females. But you do not have to be a member of a cohort. You can go onto these modules yourself, and any individual can go and do the training, or any business support organization. And I encourage any of the exporters on here to approach your business support organizations and ask them to, use these for exporter training in each of the countries. That's the end of the questions that I see there. Bongani, we have another we have another little bit of time.
Yeah, just one question from me, and then you can share whatever else you'd want to share.
Okay.
Just on the TFF, the School of Export, and all these tools, are they available to government agencies, Chamber of Commerce and export agencies only, or they are open to members of the public? And are there any costs involved in terms of accessing these systems?
Very, very good point, Bongani. Thank you for raising. These are available to anybody and everybody. So if you're an individual running a business, or you're an export manager or marketing manager in a business who's looking to export and to hone your skills, the School of Export is available to you individually. Just go onto our Trade and Information Hub, click on the link for the School of Export, and you can register there and set up a profile. At the same time, we are trying to strongly activate and encourage all the export agencies and business of chambers and sector associations across the whole region to also, instead of having to create or generate exporter training or hire in or pay for exporter training to be done, we're encouraging all the business support organizations to actually use these modules in the TFSA School of Export to do that training. It saves you the time of having to go through the process of developing the exporter training. And anybody who's worked in a chamber or a government agency knows the bureaucracy involved in getting money to do it, getting funding to, to get somebody to do exporter training and to get those approvals. You can short circuit that by using the School of Export free of charge to train your exporters. So thanks for that, Bongani. It's a very good point to raise, much appreciated. If we've got another few minutes, so what I'm going to do now, just to round things out, I'm just going to go on to the Trade and Information Hub again. If I can just find it. There we go. And I'll just show you the other tools that are available. So Tatiana showed you already the Export Readiness Checker, the tools from the ITC and others for identifying markets, both globally and in Europe and in America and Canada. There's the other facilities there. The Swiss have a tool. The Germans have an import desk. There's also a link to the Center for Promotion of Imports from Developing Countries in Europe. You can get a huge amount of valuable information there, how to approach buyers, where to find buyers, what the market trends are for particular products and so on. Tatiana has also shown you on trading, checking trading prices and finding buyers through the ITC tools. But then when you're ready to export, when you're looking at a particular country to export, of course, there are a lot of what are called non-tariff barriers, the rules, regulations, and so on that you have to comply with for whether it's sanitary, phytosanitary, and so on. I just brought up one quickly, an example from exporting from Namibia to Spain of oysters, because that is a particular focus that there is in Namibia under our value chain work. And you can see the gentleman who was asking about, the gluten-free and so on, you can see how detailed you need to be when you classify a product. But these tools also help you classify the product. So you'll see oysters, it goes down the whole chain, whether they're intended for human consumption at the end of the day. And then you will see, it will tell you the customs tariffs that are applicable. It'll tell you what the taxes are. You see there for other countries exporting oysters to the EU, for example, to Spain, there's a 9% customs tariff. Somebody from this region under the Economic Partnership Agreement with SADC would have duty-free access. That already gives you a nearly 10% competitive advantage. It'll tell you what the other taxes are. It'll tell you what the import requirements are. It goes through all the information about your commercial invoices and so on. And then particularly the rules and regulations and certificates that you have to have in place. That has not been the focus of our webinar today, but I thought just to let you know the massive amount of support that you can get through the Trade and Information Hub, through links to these areas. And you'll see control of contaminants on foodstuffs. If you clicked on that, it will bring up a whole description of it, and it will give you all the information there about what you need to comply with. If you're exporting, in order to be able to get that 10% advantage, your product must be from the region. So for example, if you're exporting from Mozambique to the EU, there's actually a rules of origin self-assessment tool in the EU website that you can see, do you comply? Is your product actually now from Mozambique or Eswatini or Namibia or South Africa and so on? And it goes through then. If you comply, then you can get the EUR1 certificate that is usually issued by your local revenue authority, your customs authority, and it gives you information there. The other one I just wanted to show you quickly, because we are funded by the British government. There's a specific portal that the British government has that we've got linked through in our Trade and Information Hub. So exporting ladies' blouses from Botswana, I used a quick link there. It will bring up the same kind of information. Customs duties, other countries would be paying 12%. You wouldn't have a customs duty applicable, so you've already got an immediate 12% competitive advantage over somebody who would be exporting that from China, for example, because they wouldn't have, they're not part of the economic partnership agreement between the UK and Southern African Customs Union Mozambique. There's if the clothing is for various personal protection, if it's personal protection equipment for firefighters, for hospitals and so on, that doesn't have a VAT on it, but for normal retail, there's a 20% VAT. This is valuable information when you're pricing stuff for your market in the UK, for example, but the EU tools provide the same kind of facilities, and the Global Trade Help Desk from the ITC provides it to some extent as well, not to the detail that you can get here. And then it tells you about the rules of origin again, and it tells you then about the product-specific regulations you have to comply with. If it is nightwear, the flammability, the labeling of the textiles for export to the UK, you open up any of these and you'll see the regulations. And just for your interest, because the UK was part of the EU, it has still taken over the EU regulations. These will change in due course. I just wanted to show those to you very quickly as well. And just to re-emphasize, these tools and these resources are available on the TFSA Trade and Information Hub with the links in the chat bar and in that document that has been posted there. I see there was maybe another question that popped up. No, that's it. Bongani, thank you. I think we've pretty much covered the questions that were posed, and we've managed to cover that little bit of additional bonus information as well. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much, Rob. Thanks to Tatiana as well for the presentations and the engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's webinar. Answers and questions, including any unanswered questions, will be posted in the next edition of the TFSA Digest. The recordings for this webinar will be out before the digest, so please check our social media platforms on YouTube and as well as the Trade Forward Southern Africa for release of the recording. We encourage all participants to go to the TFSA hub, that is TF Southern Africa. Sorry, let me repeat that. It's tfsouthernafrica.org, and undertake the free assessments and use the training tools. Follow TFSA on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook and Twitter, and look out for future invitations. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. Our next webinar will be on Thursday, the 19th of May at the same time. So please save the date, the 19th of May, just around the same time. To stay informed with TFSA webinars, programs, and activities, please visit the TFSA website, tfsouthernafrica.org. Please remember to complete the survey, the feedback survey that will pop out as you exit these screens. The webinar is now closed. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bongani and Tatiana. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.